With WWE Clash of Champions happening very soon, I thought it would be a great time to bring you guys my top 10 underrated world champions list. This is your host Ango, and let's get started. Kicking things off on my list, coming in at number 10, we are talking about Captain Charisma, Christian. Christian had a very awesome title run. Well, not really. 1 week after winning the belt, Christian was unsuccessful when it came to retaining the belt against Randy Orton. It was a mid-air RKO out of nowhere that sealed the deal, and many fans were left visibly confused. I always felt that Christian possessed the in-ring ability as well as the mic work to successfully be a world heavyweight champion, and even though his feud with Randy Orton was a very interesting and entertaining feud, it just seemed like WWE officials were never high on them. And that is because it's true. WWE officials wanted Randy Orton to be the head guy of SmackDown and therefore stopped investing into Christian. Coming in at number 9 may be a little bit controversial, maybe a little shocking, but this list definitely needed Alberto Del Rio. Now, backstage drama aside, Del Rio actually had some pretty notable feuds and storylines while being in the WWE. The big thing about Del Rio, and the reason why I feel he was so underrated, is mainly because, well, the person who took the belt away from Del Rio and stopped him from becoming even bigger and better was somebody who eventually went back to irrelevancy, which was Dolph Ziggler. Now, Del Rio held the WWE Championship and other WWE titles while in the WWE, but let's just face it, Del Rio has a terrible reputation within the wrestling world, which is why many people can't really take his WWE career as serious. Now, we have to keep in mind, WWE was looking to attract the Latin American audience, and Del Rio was kind of their main focus. They don't have Rey Mysterio at this point, and Del Rio has a great gimmick with great in-ring ability and had Ricardo Rodriguez, eventually had Zeb Coulter. I mean, a lot of reasons could pile up as to why Del Rio should have been bigger than he was, but many people question his effort and his work ethic as to whether or not he could have actually been what the WWE needed. Unfortunately, Del Rio's in-work ring ability just couldn't be enough for him to be a bigger star. Number 8 is not necessarily controversial. However, I think I'm cheating here. That's right, I'm talking about Finn Balor. In the history books, he'll always be known as the first WWE Universal Champion. However, one day after his big victory with this new WWE Championship belt, well, he had to relinquish the title. That's right, due to an injury that was suffered in the match, Finn Balor would be sidelined for several months and no longer carry the title belt that was in the history books for the very first time. Now, Finn Balor was a great superstar and still is, but unfortunately, a lot of reports have come out that Finn Balor is just not over with top WWE management. Now, this is very unfortunate because what seemed to be a very promising championship reign turned into something that many people are clamoring and hoping for yet once again. That's right, people are looking for Balor versus Lesnar because they feel like this is the perfect storyline. Now, Brock Lesnar being the Beast and Finn Balor being the Demon would definitely propose wonderful stories. However, many people question whether or not Finn Balor's size is the reason for why he is currently in the position he is. He is definitely one of the more underrated superstars because he has proven that he can hang with the big guys in WWE, but unfortunately, we just don't know what's going to happen. Going on to number 7 on the list is somewhat of a very confusing situation because this is one of the top guys in WWE that doesn't necessarily need to hold a world championship belt. His skills in the ring and on the mic and the ability to tell a story as a character has transformed the way that I think of pro wrestling. Bray Wyatt does not come off as a very over-muscular, independent, high-flying, brawler type of wrestler. This guy is all about the character, and his character alone doesn't necessarily need the championship belt. However, when you look at his WWE Championship run, question marks were left all over the place. It was cool to see Bray Wyatt hold a championship belt in the first place, but then when you realize the back and forth that's happening on a weekly basis, you start to realize that maybe Bray Wyatt just does not need the title. Now, here is the good thing about Bray Wyatt. Because he doesn't need a title belt, some people think that his character development and his character doesn't necessarily revolve around winning the big one, hopefully WWE can get some wins on his record, because too many losses could definitely be detrimental to his career. Again, Bray Wyatt comes in at number 7, and it's very confusing because he was really good champion, but he's a better superstar than champion. Number 6 on the list may confuse you because, well, it's Adrian Neville. And that's right, you're probably thinking to yourself, Neville had never won the World Championship belt, and his name is no longer Adrian. Well, Neville had completely transformed by the time he made it to the main roster. In fact, when he was in NXT, being the top guy holding the NXT Championship belt for over 200 plus days, a lot of people would say that Neville would never be taken serious while being on the main roster. And honestly, that was true until Neville became a fully developed heel character. That's right. Neville went from being a babyface with a cape, with a full name. I mean, things had completely changed for Neville by the time he got to 205 Live. He took a very serious approach, grew some facial hair, and became an ultimate badass. Now, these days, I very well question whether or not Neville will ever come back to the WWE, but based on seeing what he did in NXT as the NXT champion, it makes me feel he was insanely underrated and continues to be underrated while being on the main roster. Now, if Neville is ever given the chance to go to WWE again, because he's still under contract, if he's given that opportunity, I say WWE, Money in the Bank, Neville, those three things go together so well, and I think he could definitely be a surprising WWE champion. I think this is one of those guys who is just so underrated, and carrying the top belt in WWE's third brand just makes sense for his rise. Number 5 on the list is none other than the modern-day Maharaja, Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal's move to SmackDown was completely unexpected, and what was more unexpected was when Randy Orton actually dropped the title to Jinder at WWE Backlash. Jinder Mahal looked bigger, better, and stronger, and although his push was somewhat random, it showed that superstars who are willing to work hard and perfect their look and their in-ring ability will be somebody that WWE could potentially push. Now, he is often criticized by fans online, however, Jinder didn't necessarily represent the online community. In fact, a lot of people hated on Jinder Mahal's reign simply because he wasn't Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens, or Sami Zayn. And that is very unfair. I'm not saying you have to be a fan of Jinder Mahal, but you should be a fan of any time somebody gets a chance in the WWE, especially when they're typically not doing that, And in this case, Jinder Mahal is definitely underrated. I mean, look at his look. Look at his ability to move in the ring. I mean, he's getting better on the microphone. He's not perfect, and I'm not going to say he's perfect, but it was definitely cool to see a random push like Jinder Mahal's. It makes me really think, what could we have seen with Jinder Mahal versus Brock Lesnar? And therefore, he's one of the more underrated WWE champions. Now, go ahead and hate on this because I know you probably will. Number 4 on the list wants to show the world that he's the very best, but for whatever reason, WWE just will not push him to the moon. That's right, I'm talking about Dolph Ziggler. Whether he's a babyface or a heel, for whatever reason, he's given opportunities and he's never really been given the opportunity to run with the ball. And that seems to be the big question mark for Dolph Ziggler. We all know when he won the World Heavyweight Championship belt by successfully cashing in on Del Rio. If the crowd's response was any indication of how successful he would be, well, let's just say we just don't get it. The crowd erupted, Dolph Ziggler side by side with Big E Langston and AJ Lee. It was a very hot act. Fans online, fans in the crowd were very vocal and happy about it, but for some reason, Dolph Ziggler continues to shine in the ring and on the mic, but he's never given the ball to run with for 100 yards. And that's what we want to see with Dolph Ziggler. One of the more underrated world champions of all time, and definitely deserves another run. Whether it happens or not, we just don't know. Coming in at number 3 is the real American Jack Swagger. Now, let's just be honest. It was wrong timing for Swagger to win the World Heavyweight Championship belt. In fact, I've always believed that maybe Jack Swagger would benefit from being in a situation like Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal left the WWE, came back with a new look, new entrance. I mean, everything had changed about Jinder Mahal, and he eventually won the World Heavyweight Championship belt. Now look at Jack Swagger going to Bellator. I mean, he was great in the ring. He didn't really have the mic skills, but people loved what he was doing with Zeb Coulter. And it makes people question why Jack Swagger was never really given the opportunity to shine when he finally had a good mouthpiece by his side. Hopefully, after a few successful fights in Bellator, Jack Swagger comes back with a new look and a new opportunity to shine within the WWE. Number 2 on the list is a former world champion, held numerous titles, tag titles. We are talking about Sheamus. Now, Sheamus cashed in Money in the Bank on Roman Reigns at Survivor Series 2015, and this was all due to assistance with Triple H. This is when I truly felt Sheamus could have been so much bigger than previous years. Sheamus has won the title multiple times, and for some reason, this reign really sticks out to me as a missed opportunity. Sheamus transformed his look, became a really cool heel, and many people would say that if WWE just kept pushing Sheamus, he would be the top guy. Unfortunately, for a guy like Sheamus, the reason why he's so underrated is because every championship reign that he's had, he's always putting over WWE's emerging stars. He's always pushing over somebody who has more priority, and we've seen that time and time again. And to cap things off, number 1 on the list, we are talking about The Miz. It's no secret his championship reign was all about bad timing. In fact, WWE decided to push The Rock and John Cena more than their own WWE champion. It was a mess. But these last 2 years, we've seen such transformation from The Miz. We've seen what he can really do from a guy who came from reality TV to main eventing WrestleMania. The Miz ends the list at number 1 as the most underrated WWE World Champion of all time.